Past life self on Wikipedia.
Welcome to Soul Guide with Vondie a show about past lives, life between lives, and this life.
Hey everybody, I'm Vondie, and today we have a very special guest, Jonathan Bassett. I did his past life session a couple of months ago, and he was one of the first people I've had who said, tell me some facts. I want to be able to find anything historical that I can. And afterward, you'll be amazed at what he found. But before we get started, I also wanted to mention, for those of you who are tuning in, I see some live people showing up. For anybody who comments or participates or asks a question, we have a little drawing at the end, and we're giving away our Life Between Lives hypnosis bags. So hopefully you'll comment and ask questions, because Jonathan and I would love to share and hear a little bit more about what you're interested in. So let me go ahead and add Jonathan. So here we go. Hey, Jonathan, how are you today?
Hey, Vondie. I'm well. How are you?
Thank you for being with us. I'm good. I'm excited about today's show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to look and see if we have our video yet. I'm going to ask Leticia. Okay, we do. So let me start with asking a little bit of your background. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you just tell us a little bit about like what you do for a living? I know you have a family, and even maybe where you grew up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm a very busy father of four.
Four? I don't think I knew four. Okay.
Well, two came in a package deal. We had twins about 4 years ago. So, yeah. And so I work full time sales. I do flooring sales for Costco, which is it's a good job. I have a big territory. I drive a lot anyways. I don't want to get in the weeds on that. But I grew up in Lake Tahoe, California. Small town, beautiful place. And I moved out to Southern California probably about 14 years ago.
Okay, great. And for me, one of the reasons I ask is it just helps people get a sense that you're just a regular guy. It's not like you walk around, doing past life sessions every day and some special powers or something. Okay.
No, definitely not.
All right. And then what drew you to past life hypnosis or past life regression? Like what caused you to even think about having your session in the first place?
Well, I've always been really curious about it. It's something that I've read quite a few books on, and I've listened to a lot of people's stories. There's some shows on TV like Ghost in My Child, and I was trying to think of another one. I'm not recalling it right now. Anyhow, I've been fascinated with the topic, and it's something I've always wanted to do. And I told my wife, for a few years, like, hey, I want to do this. And it never happened for one reason or the other. And then for Christmas last year, she gave me a card and it said, here, go get your regression. And it was like a little gift card to pay for it and everything. So it was really sweet. It was one of the best presents ever.
Yeah. And I saw your post in the Facebook group. You were like, guess what I got for Christmas?
Yeah.
You were very excited.
Yeah, I was.
And then you reached out to me. So thank you
ma'am.
very much for choosing
of course.
to do your session with me. It was a really wonderful experience. So
I'm glad I did. Yeah, it was good.
Okay, great. And I'm it's fun to have you on, and I apologize. I get excited. I'll kind of interrupt a little bit. So we'll just go back and forth, but feel free to let me know.
That's fine. And I get a little nervous, and I'm saying that because it makes it easier if I tell you I'm nervous. So.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
Same here.
Right.
But we'll just trust the guides kind of brought us together, and they're in charge of the show. So, and we do have some people tuning in. I see the little clicker going. So that's
everyone. All right. Okay.
Okay. So we're going to start with a little bit of the audio from your session. So thank you again for giving us permission to share.
Of course. Yeah.
And I'll have my assistant Leticia if you want to pull up the audio, and then you and I can talk about your session.
Okay.
Okay, great. And then if you were to pan out a little further, what do you sense about the environment? Is it flat or rolling hills or mountains or desert or something else?
It's hills.
Hills. So first impressions now. What part of the world do you sense you're in? What's the name of this place? This humid, hilly, green place?
Maybe England or Ireland.
Questions now. What is your name? What do people call you? You can actually hear someone call your name.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. And what is the year that you're experiencing there, standing in that black dress in the morning? What's the number that pops into your word?
1720.
Do you know the name of your town? You can give me the first letter of the name.
Starts with an O.
And the next letter.
T.
And the next letter.
W.
And the next letter.
A.
Are there any more letters?
I can't tell.
Okay. Wow. So how is that to hear that and even see it with the pictures?
I kind of just got chills a little bit because I remember saying that, but I haven't heard it back, I don't think. So yeah, it was, it was just very obscure because when it came to my mind, I was thinking, is this Canada or
Ottawa? Yeah.
It sounded like Ottawa, but I'm like, that's not what I'm seeing. It's not what I'm feeling. So it's just really obscure, but I just had to trust like, okay, that's what I'm kind of getting. So I went with it and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The name Elizabeth, and we had already asked how old are you on this day. And for those of you who are new, and if you haven't done a session, or even if you have, it just unfolds. We just start with, what are you wearing on your feet? And you said black shoes. And then what are you wearing on the rest of your body? A black dress, because I'm in mourning. And do you remember why you were in mourning?
It felt like my Elizabeth's husband died. I don't know what the correct term is.
You can say my, because you were Elizabeth.
I mean, my husband had died, it felt like. And so that was kind of the stage I was in and it was really interesting because during the regression, it was like certain parts of it would come in really clearly. Mm-hmm. And then it would kind of like get a little murky and I'd have to fight a little harder to see or to hear kind of what was going on. But that moment, like that opening scene, it was like, I didn't say it in the moment because you were speaking, but it was already it was unfolding before you even like asked me.
Yeah. I think you did say, like, even before we got out of the tunnel, you were kind of getting it.
Yeah. It was like, okay. My guide was like, okay, just get there. Here it is. Like, I'll show you this. Yeah.
You're here. Yeah. Yeah. And so again, for those of you who haven't had your own experience, we kind of navigate around in that life. And so one of the first things I ask is, tell me about the home where you live. And what do you remember about the home where you live? And I have to confess, I just listened to it this week, so it's fresh in my mind. So I can fill in some gaps.
Good. Yeah. So I remember, I really remember the landscape kind of around it first. Like it was just, everything was green. It just felt like everything was always green there. And like water was not a problem. I remember feeling that, like, cause I think you asked me too, like, where do you take a bath? And I just remember like, there's water everywhere. Like it's not a problem. But then like the house, came into focus and it was just a big stone house. And, I remember saying like, it's big, like it's really big. And it's covered in moss. And I just kind of was like, this is not what I was expecting because it was just so big. And it felt like for that time period, like, how could I be living in such a big, giant place, Yeah.
Well, and when you told me stone house, I'm picturing stone house, like a little stone, one room. Mm. And then when you showed me the picture afterwards, and there's this gigantic stone castle, and then you have mentioned there's a house behind it, but even still, I'm picturing little stone house, and you said there's moss on it, and so I'm picturing a little moss, and the whole thing is like covered in moss. Yeah,
you were thinking like a Hobbit house or something like that.
And it's covered in this very, very thick moss. And we have a comment from Vondie. She says, that is so amazing. He saw it and then looked it up, and it was all real. So when you did start to look up some of this afterward, I want to kind of follow up on that. How was it for you? And then we'll go back through your story.
Okay. So that part's kind of interesting. So during the experience, during the regression, I really felt like it was England, but I said, I couldn't tell for sure. It was like England or Ireland.
That's what you said.
But my memories, like I was getting other spontaneous things kind of coming to me that looked like England. Like there was like a city with like a really nice cobblestone road and people wearing nice clothes. Mm-hmm. And it didn't feel like that would be 18th century Ireland to me. Mm-hmm. But so when I got home, I say that because I got home and I started immediately looking up what I thought was Ottawa, England. And I didn't get anything. So I just I kind of thought, well, maybe it was an old town, maybe it's not there anymore. And I looked for maybe 30 or 45 more minutes, just different things, like trying to find something. And I thought to myself, I said, wait a minute, I wasn't totally sure it was England. Like it felt like that, but I do recall saying, well, there's a possibility it was Ireland. And so then I looked up Ottawa, Ireland, and boom, it just came up and I saw the place and I just said, there's no way. And I kind of had to stand up and like walk away from it for a little bit because it was like a lot, you know?
And did you recognize it when it popped up?
Yeah, oh, yeah. So there's, if you look in the pictures, there's like the house part, and then behind it is like the big structure, the big castle part. So I mostly remember looking at the big house, you know, which just shocked me because I was like, yeah, okay, that was it. And the landscape was exactly how I remembered it. Yeah, it was a lot, you know. And then, so yeah, I won't say too much because I know we're going to get into more stuff too.
No, it's great. Yeah. And then we are getting some comments put up. Leticia, my assistant, is putting the picture of his house and a few more links. And I forgot to say the main picture of the castle is from Wikipedia, Liam Hughes. So thank you for that picture, Liam. So yeah, I can't imagine going and seeing what you just saw in your session. So yes, yeah, it's crazy. So I have, I know, I said, tell me about the main room when you enter. Do you remember the ballroom?
I remember there was a big space, and it felt like at one time a lot of people would come there, and then in this moment in my life, nobody was coming. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why, you know, there was a lot of war and conflict in that time. Mm-hmm. So it could have just been that like people were away and fighting or doing, you know, it just wasn't a time to like celebrate and do those things. So it was just kind of quiet there. But I remember looking at that big room, just feeling like, oh, kind of sad. Like this used to be where people got together, and now that they don't at the moment. So
yeah. And you said people used to come, but they don't anymore. In fact, that was kind of a theme of the life of kind of a lot of emptiness, like this big empty house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
I think so.
Yeah, for sure. And then I'm kind of going in order, but we can jump around too.
My brain does that too, so it's fine.
Okay. And then I'm still not getting that we're talking castle. I'm still picturing Hobbit house size, you know?
Yeah.
And so then I asked about a meal, and you start describing that. And I remember saying, what do you have, utensils or something? And who made the meal? Do you remember? I'm going to say it because you might not remember that much detail, but you said something is polished. So I didn't know if it was like the silver was polished or the what you were drinking out of. But then I start to realize, okay, this is fancy. And who made this food? We have a few people that help us. Yeah. So I think you had servants.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it felt like. But it felt like, although they were classified as servants, like they were part of the family. Mm-hmm. You know, so it wasn't a relationship where I was looking down on these people. It was like they were there, but they were like part of the family too. Just something I remember. But yeah.
Well, and in your final moment, the woman who I think had prepared the meal was one of the people in the room with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone you were close to. Mm-hmm. And I think from there we went to the childhood.
Mm-hmm. And that was interesting too. Yeah.
And that was rough. So do you want to tell me what you remember about the childhood? And then we do have comments coming in. That's why I'm kind of looking over, but we'll
sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So this was another part that like came really vivid. You said, okay, go to your childhood. And it was like, I was there, and I was at a Catholic school, and there was a big giant statue of Mother Mary. And it was all girls. And I remember being like really close friends with, you know, one or two of these girls there, but we hated going inside because it was just really dreary, and the people there were mean. Like I remember
strict. I remember you saying.
Yeah, it was just like really, it just didn't feel comfortable to me. And then I think also I think we talked about there was a plague.
I was going to ask you if you looked that up, because you said there were people who were dying, and if you touched them, you would get sick.
Yes. And there was a plague outbreak in that time frame.
Wow. I was
Yeah.
going to ask you if you had a chance to look that up.
Yeah, I did look it up, and that part checked out as well. But yeah, none of to my recollection in the regression, at least, I don't recall any of my family getting it, but that there were people living proximate to us that did.
You said neighbors, because I asked anybody you know die, and you said neighbors.
Yeah. So yeah, and I know we'll probably get into this a little more. So yeah, the whole Catholic part was like, I think, a really key factor of like what I was feeling, because I wanted to, well, in that life, it was like I wanted to pull away from that, and there was a big push. I also looked this up. In that time, there was a big Protestant, kind of uprising where Catholics were really punishing Protestants, and it was, you had to kind of keep it a secret. So it was that made sense that I was kind of like, I felt like, this doesn't feel right. I kind of, religion was important to me in that life, but it didn't feel like I wanted to go the Catholic route. I wanted to do the Protestant thing. But
right. Well, and plus it was a boarding school. You lived there. I remember you
Yeah.
didn't get to see your family very much.
Yeah.
Which would be part of the noble experience.
Yeah.
Send your kids away.
Right.
And then you also shared a little bit about your parents, especially your
Mhm.
dad.
Yeah. So my memory was that my father was gone a lot, but that he worked for the king, I guess, at the time,
You
and
said the government.
the government, yeah, and was like a high-ranking military official,
Mhm.
and that explained part of the reason why, like, we grew up wealthy, because
Mhm.
yeah, it just felt like he was gone a lot, but that we were close. It felt like we were close, but just didn't see him a lot.
Mm-hmm. And he was he trained soldiers, and
Yeah.
then when you looked up Elizabeth on Wikipedia, I think you found some stuff that was a little bit consistent.
Yeah. So there was an Elizabeth Vickers who married a man named James Otway, and Elizabeth Vickers, she was in the 18th century, and like
Her
late 16th.
timeline fits with your time.
Yeah. She lived at the Castle Otway. I think she was born in the late 1600s, and then again, I'm skipping around, but it's funny
okay.
because in the time when I looked at how old she was when she died, I think you asked me, how old do you feel like in
Mhm.
that part, like in the death scene, and I think I said 73 or 4 or something like that, and she lived to be 72 or 3. Yeah, so that part lined up, and then her dad was James Vickers, Captain James Vickers. So it was like ding, ding, ding. It was just really strange. It was like the more I kept reading, it just, I should have prefaced this whole conversation with, this is not me trying to prove anything to anybody. My hope is that people find it interesting, and those that are thinking about doing a past life regression might find this helpful in some way. But yeah, this is there's evidence here, but I'll never be able to like prove something,
Right.
and that's really not my goal or intent. So,
Right.
but yeah, it was pretty.
So, and I agree, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But for people who are open to this, and for you, how did it feel to have it going ding, ding, ding?
Yeah, it was. It still is interesting, because sometimes I reflect on it, and I just think, for not just my story, but for everybody's story, that we're all like a part of this bigger picture, and we do carry on, and our loved ones carry on, and it fills you with hope, and it fills you with just kind of wonder, like, it's just fascinating to me that these things could line up like that.
I know, like I still get goosebumps when you called me, or I think you were texting me afterwards, and I
Yeah.
was like, "What? Holy cow! Are you kidding?"
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
because I've had people research a little bit of their sessions and find stuff that was consistent, but this was the first time I had somebody who you came in hoping to do that,
Mhm.
and then the fact that the guides actually gave you something researchable,
Right.
and then it was lining up.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is the direction you want to go, but it's the why part of why I did it, is important to me. And, when I grew up, I mentioned to you before, I was raised Jehovah's Witness, which is like those, most people know at least one or two Jehovah's Witnesses when you're school or, and on the surface, they're very nice people and they mean well, they do. But that religion is brutally controlling, and it was like forbidden to even have these types of conversations about, maybe there's past lives or, I couldn't even talk to these things or these things to my mom or anything. So I used to have to hide books, when I was like 12, 13, I started reading about this stuff, and I would hide books under my bed and just hope she didn't find them. Because there was, I read everything from like astral travel to past lives. And I was always kind of like a sensitive person, like aware that things were happening, but beyond our five senses. So when I became an adult, it was just, I was more free to explore those things. And so I've been on a quest ever since then, because it was like that high control environment, after getting out of that, I just wanted to explore. And so this was like a big part of the journey, was to go and see for myself, like, hey, am I on the right track? Are these things working out? And I feel like my guide wanted me to say, hey, check this out. Like,
right. I was just going to say, and they showed you a life that could actually be validated.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was like, Elizabeth was not like a famous person. She just had enough kind of the history around her where you could find her. And that place, the Castle Otway is now on private property. It's not like somewhere you can go and like tourists check out. And it was just so obscure. And I think the reason I came across that life was, it was a good life. There was a lot to it, but it was like, there was enough there where I could gather the information and kind of put it together. I feel like if I would have gone to like a later life or something, I mean, we all probably have lived lives of ones we'd like to forget, could have worked in a mine in Africa or so, who knows what it was, but there wouldn't be anything substantial to like research and find. So it was like, I was able to go, oh, wow. Like that
This
checks
is really
out.
real.
Yeah.
Okay. And great. And I see comments popping up, so I'm just going to glance really quick.
Okay.
David Ortiz, thank you, David, for being here. Wow, nice to have validation. Same with Leah. Wow, so incredible. And Leah, I was always fascinated by past lives as a young kid too, and David too. And I think that's what's nice about this kind of opportunity to share with people is we're creating a community. We have our little Facebook group, a private group. And so it's a place where we can talk about these things. Even for me, most everyone knows I've been a talk therapist for years and years, and I'm leaving that and doing this now. And so it's even a little bit of me coming out of the closet, what do you do for a living,
Right.
Past
yeah.
life.
You can't just go around and drop this on people. It's a lot,
Right. And I also grew up in a pretty conservative Christian background.
Right.
So similar,
It's almost like, maybe you're the same way. I almost carry around this little piece of guilt in me that's like, I'm disappointing my family, but I think everybody has that to some degree, but I mean, we're gonna find our own path. And no, I was thinking that too. It's like, I'm really happy you created this space for people to share and learn. And it's becoming more accepted. I heard some recent numbers, and I don't want to get them wrong, but there's been a large increase of people who believe in past lives across the United States recently. So it's becoming more, or less taboo, I should say, more accepted. Yeah. And then of course there's people in the Hindu faith that are like, we've been telling you guys this for
well, in fact, even not to go off on this too much, but even in the Bible, they mentioned past lives. They think John the Baptist is Elijah come back from the dead. So at that time, there was a view of people living again and again as well.
Right.
It's only in kind of modern Christianity that it's not. But okay, so I'm going to come back to your session, but we do have people coming on the show, which is really exciting. And David says you're a seeker of truth, and Leah says people think I'm crazy sometimes. LOL, but I stand by this. So we did the childhood, then we went to a significant event, and that was you got a horse.
Yeah, that was another really clear thing that popped up, was like, and I wasn't expecting that at all, because I was thinking when you said something significant, I was gonna say like, oh, birth of my kids or
Mhm.
something like that. And it was like, no, this horse that was gifted to me.
By
And
your husband. Yeah.
yeah, and the horse was like really beautiful. And just like, I remember being with that horse all the time. That's what it felt like. It was, once I got that horse, that was it. It was like this whole new life. I was riding that horse all the time. And
Well,
yeah,
you were pretty lonely in this big house,
yeah,
and but
maybe for the later part of my life. Yeah.
the horse was kind of your thing. And then if I remember right, when we were texting after your session, wasn't the stables one of the things that you saw in some of your researching online?
Yes. So there's actually, I came across a YouTuber who did a paranormal investigation. I guess he trespassed, but he did a paranormal investigation at the castle, and he has a lot of video. I think he made 2 or 3 videos where he's just going around and video, different angles and stuff. And he went by there was the stables there that you and I talked about, and I saw it, and I was like, yeah, that's it. And then there's like an archway that you can kind of ride through, and that was there. So yeah, it was just
Crazy.
strange. Yeah.
And when you saw those things, did it feel like I've been there?
Oh yeah.
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 Okay. Okay. So then let me move to the next one. It was, well, actually, most important person was your husband.
Hmm.
And I have down that he was an exporter.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
Okay. And then a happy or proud moment was when your kids were singing, but it was a different school. They were performing for like a Christmas show or something.
So it felt like that, some sort of holiday
Mhm.
event. And yeah, I just remember it wasn't like in a Catholic church. So I was kind of like, felt more comfortable.
Mhm. And I think you said that you even saw the chapel in some of what you found where they were singing.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can't verify this, but that this was what I was seeing. But there is like a school slash chapel attached to the castle.
Oh, okay.
So it could have been in there, but I don't know. I don't
Okay.
remember. Yeah.
But she put a school, or somebody put a school on the grounds.
Yes. There
And
was a school
so
there.
her kids, so your kids in your session were no longer, they didn't go to the same Catholic boarding school. They went
Right.
to a different
Right.
school. And
Yeah.
it could have been that school. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And then I also asked about a turning point, an important moment. And this was when your kids kind of moved away to the city.
Yes.
And I remember you being sad and saying, I just want everyone to be together.
Right. Yeah. It just kind of felt, it was like you go from stages in life, and right now in my current life, I'm, surrounded by kids all the time, and it's busy, but it's a lot of fun. And then it just felt like maybe that was something that she really enjoyed, but then she was like in this next stage of life where she's getting older, and it's like all the kids are gone, and, doesn't see her husband. That's why she was like in that big empty house. And it just kind of felt, it didn't feel like crushingly sad. It just felt like kind of like you were longing for the past a little bit, or like I was longing for the past, like,
Mhm.
and I knew it could never go back to the way it was. That's what it felt like.
Right. And it felt to me like there was a big emphasis on family, or she
Mhm.
said on the final day, I asked, what are your thoughts or reflections? And you said, nothing lasts forever, makes me appreciate what I have. But earlier when the kids were leaving, wanting everybody to be together. And those are some of the themes I think that are related to why they showed you this session. So I'm going to transition to that. So anything you want to say about that, about the final day before you crossed over, or reflections on the life? You said it was a good life.
I was just going to say that it felt like a good life. I don't feel there was any like monumental messages like that. It wasn't like an epiphany went off and oh, now I get it kind of thing. It was just like I was reflecting on a good life. I was thankful for what I had, and yeah, it was just like, especially in that time frame, like to live out into your later years, that alone seemed like
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
The other thing I just remember too is you said a couple times, we have a lot of money, but it doesn't really matter.
Which is funny because it's easy to say when you have money, I suppose.
Right.
But yeah, it kind of was like, well, that's not, because like maybe it felt like for my family, like my parents, like that was a big deal. It's like status was a big deal. But for me, it
No,
was more about being outside and, riding the horse and that sort of thing, like enjoying the simpler things maybe.
and wanting your family to be with you.
Yeah. Right.
So do you remember much about your guide?
That she was kind of funny.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
you saying that. So,
Yeah.
so on the last day you cross over, and usually
Mhm.
your guide shows up, not always, but this is your guide who has been with you since your soul was created. So I always say
Right.
you are your guide's graduation present. So they're no
Mhm.
longer incarnating most of the time, but they have you kind of under their wing.
Right.
So she was funny. Do you remember much about how she appeared, what she looked like?
Yeah. She appeared as maybe a woman in probably early 60s, African American descent, short white hair, and
Mhm.
just kind of like lighthearted and silly and like, hey, what are you doing? Like, why? Almost not like why are you here, but like, I'm here all the time, kind of thing. Like it was like I was seeking her out, but she was like, yeah, I'm here all the time. Like that.
Yeah.
It was just kind of felt funny. Like I don't know how
Yeah,
to describe it.
well, and when you said she's funny, I was like, why is she funny? And you said,
Did I
what
say
is
she
she
was
doing
funny?
that's funny? And you said she told you don't take life so seriously, and several messages kind of along those lines.
Yeah, it was kind of like it's kind of this feeling of like zoom out and look at the big picture.
Yeah.
Like don't be so focused on the trivial things. Like everything passes in time, and we can get so caught up in everyday day-to-day stresses of life. And it was more of just like zoom out, look at the whole picture. This is the tiny piece of
Mm-hmm.
eternity, really. And so it was just kind of relaxing. Like, okay, yeah, maybe I do stress out needlessly over things, and everything
Like
works.
money, maybe.
Yeah, just anything. It's just like little deals can seem like such big deals
Right.
sometimes, and so it takes a different perspective to kind of smell the roses, as they say. Just to kind of be like, hey, maybe it's not so bad, and you can enjoy the moment more.
Yeah. And I jotted down some of the messages, and you covered most of them. So
Okay.
you take life too seriously, enjoy your life. Oh, and she did say the last life was so sad. The last life was sad, and that
Yeah.
she lost faith as a child because it was about recovering faith and hope. And she said she lost faith as a child, and we asked, why were you shown this life, and how does it relate to this life? And she said Jonathan lost faith as a child.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and yeah, and it was like I lost faith, and I had to kind of reinvent that part of myself, because it was a big part of my life when I was a kid. And then when I kind of made my own discoveries about things and just tried to seek out that spiritual side, I didn't know really where to start. So it was like starting over, and I felt like she did that in her life too, because it was like she got away from the Catholicism and everything. It probably feels like during that time, like Catholic, the wars that were happening and stuff, a lot of it was because they were imposing their views on people, and it just seemed like a really violent, it just kind of went against what seemingly Christians would do. So I think that's why she was pulling back, and reassessing. Anyway, but yeah, we kind of had similar lines on that, I guess.
Yeah. And that's the whole reason. Most of the time we don't have lives that we can research, but we have lives that tell us something about this life.
Right.
Yeah. And have a message for us. Yeah. What you were saying, there's much more, finding spirit and hope. It's actually a very big journey. And then I thought this was interesting, a really specific message. And sometimes they do go somewhere away from the city.
Yeah.
And do you feel comfortable sharing your plans to get away from the city and to be back where everybody's together, which is what Elizabeth wanted?
Yeah. So we're probably gonna move out of California next year, and somewhere in Tennessee, somewhere a little quieter, closer to family.
Closer to family.
Somewhere we can stretch out a little bit. Feel like we've done the rat race for long enough, and we're ready for the next chapter. And so that seemed like kind of a fitting part of it too, was like, yeah, I can be out more, where there's not so many people, it's less crowded, more people, that's just something that's been calling to me for a long time, even before this session. It's just
Yeah.
something that needed to happen. So that was kind of validating.
Yeah. Very validating.
Yeah.
And I also remember she said that when I asked, what is your relationship to this soul? What is her relationship to you? She said that you guys have incarnated many times together before.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I asked if she's a soulmate and you said no, but that you had been through many lives together.
Right. And didn't she call herself mom?
Yes. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that could have been, she probably feels, or she still feels that way maybe, but maybe in the other life, she was a mother to me or something. I don't know. We'll have to go back and figure that one out.
There you go. Okay, so I see stuff popping up over here. So I'm going to look over. This is such a privilege to listen. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.
That's from Teresa Hugo. Thank you, Teresa. And Leah, this is so cool. And Jonathan, do you feel those lives have meaning for you in this life? Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you. Leah had submitted that question in advance, and I forgot to include it. Do you feel those lives have meaning for you in this life, the life of Elizabeth?
Yeah, I do. In various ways. You know, I think we've covered probably most of those things, but yeah, I think if I was to take one lesson out of it, it was just to really be in the moment and be present as much as possible, and to life is a gift, and so you have to kind of hold on to it, and you know, not overthink things. But even in the moments where Elizabeth was lonely and sad, she still appreciated her life, and that was just kind of what I took from it. Was like, okay, no matter where I'm at in life, no matter what I'm doing, I'm fortunate, you know, to be here and to live the life that I've had, and you know, make the most of it. Really.
Yeah, life is a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we can be so enthralled, as I am, with the afterlife. I have to remember a lot of planning goes into this life. Like, it's a privilege to get to come here and to fully embrace it.
Yeah, and not just well, this gets into like the Michael Newton stuff, but not just like us planning it, but like the group we come here with. So it's like people are investing their energies into us too, and it's a responsibility to do the best for us and them. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Okay, I'm going to look and see. There's still more. Such a beautiful message. Thank you. Leah's saying thank you for answering. And I'm going to look and see. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to add, Jonathan, just in terms of what you hope to get out of this and how it met your expectations or was different than your expectations, or anything else you'd like to share?
I kind of went in with no expectations on purpose. I didn't want to overthink it because I just wanted to go in there and relax and experience whatever it was going to be. So I was happily pleased with the results, and I thought it was healing. You know, I didn't go because I was felt like I needed healing, but I guess we all do to some degree, but it wasn't like my main reason for going, but I did feel that, you know, when I came out of it, it just felt kind of like rejuvenated, and maybe a little more able to focus on the things I need to do in life. Like it just made, like we said, it made the big deals not so big anymore. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, well, this is just a small piece of the big picture, you know? And I keep telling myself that, like, if something comes along that's difficult, and well, okay, we'll get through it and everything's going to be okay in the end. And no, it was very nice. Yeah. And I would like to do the Life Between Lives, which we haven't done yet. So, oh, and that was another part. Maybe we'll add to it. It was just a funny little thing during the session. You started asking me, like, what are you seeing? And I'm like, I'm seeing all these colors and things are going, it's really weird. And you had to pull me back because I started going to like the next level.
You were heading to the other side.
I was like, okay, I've seen enough. Yeah.
You were launching. You were halfway there for sure.
So we'll have to pick that up where it left off.
Absolutely. And then I was going to say, when I was talking to you this week, getting ready for the show today, I said, I was thanking you for coming on. And you said, you know, I think about it every day.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it'll just pop in my mind, and sometimes I'll try and dig and find a little more research, like if I have time. And, you know, I haven't been able to find out too much more, but there's some interesting things from that time period I want to go back and read, and things that were happening. And yeah, it was neat to find it out.
Great. And just for those of you watching or listening, the comments, we posted some of those links where Jonathan did a little more research. And then I just thought of another question, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure.
How did your wife feel about this?
So my wife
Did you
and
share messages with her?
yeah. So my wife's very open-minded, and we have talked for a long time about like if we come across like our children, for instance, we are very easily able to determine who's old souls and who's new souls.
Mhm.
And I mean, we could be wrong in that, but we come to a quick agreement on it. Like our oldest is definitely a young soul, and then our middle child is a really old soul, and it's just very apparent to us. So we've always kind of talked in those terms,
Mhm.
and she's been open-minded to it. But then once I started reading the Michael Newton books a few years ago, I was just blown away by like what he found. And so I was talking to her about that. I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to do this. Like, this is really fascinating. And these people are having similar experiences. And so she was all excited about it. And, you know, when I came home and told her, she was like, I'm like, she actually got on the laptop first. And she's like, okay, we got to look this up and see what we can find. And so she was helping me like do the research in real time, like when I got home. And then, yeah, so she thought it was fun. Now my daughter wants to do a regression. She's excited.
How old is your daughter?
She's 15.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She's the old soul. Yeah.
Okay. And then you have two little ones, right?
Yeah, we have an older 17-year-old, and then we have two 4-year-old twins.
That's what I was thinking. I remembered you had two 4-year-olds. Yeah.
And I'll just throw this in there since we're on the subject, but the twins are identical girls,
Mhm.
and they have been having spontaneous past life memories for about a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
And they're different. So they're very detailed, and we try not to put ideas in their head or try and fish too hard because we want them to just be organic.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's pretty interesting. They're telling a definite story there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope you're writing it down or recording it or something.
We have some stuff on it. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, let me look over here. There's more comments. I love how analytical this whole talk was. And then thank you, Jonathan. So cool. And everybody's just really appreciative. So thank
I'm
you
appreciative.
so much,
Oh, yeah.
Jonathan,
Of
for
course.
sharing your story with us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was wonderful. And I know I'll see you again, and maybe we'll have a part 2. We'll see.
Absolutely. I would love that.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to switch gears. But do you want to stay up on the screen? I just have a couple more things to do, or you want me
Sure.
to?
I'll hang out with you.
Okay, perfect. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just look at my little thing. So we do have some people who commented and asked questions. So I know some of you came on late, but changing gears to thank you for being a part of our show, which is still pretty new. Send Leticia your address, and we have a special gift for you. I'm trying to put it in front of the camera. It's a little bag. And she will post her email address, Leticia, or support@lifebetweenliveshypnosis.com. And we have a couple people. If you would like to send her your address, then we will send you one of our special bags. And then also, if you're interested in your own past life regression, you can book a session or a discovery call on my website. And that's just where we can find out a little bit more about if it would be a good fit for you. And just go to lifebetweenliveshypnosis.com. And Leticia will put that in the comments too. And next week, we're having Sandy Byrne. And what a coincidence. Your Elizabeth was in, I can't remember the name of the town where the castle was. Wendy, who did our graphic and our video. Thank you, Wendy.
I think it's Tipperary.
Yeah, exactly. That was the town, but it's in the county of Tipperary. And that's where Sandy, the Irish medium, is from.
Right.
So I was like, and that just happened. I was on her show a couple of weeks ago, and she offered very graciously to come here and share with us next week. So Jonathan and I were sharing this last night going, that's pretty amazing.
I bet she's probably been to that castle. You have to ask her.
Yeah, in fact, you said, if you want to watch next week, I'll remember to ask her, or ask if I forget.
I'll put in the comments.
Yeah, we want to ask her if she's got anything from that castle. That's pretty amazing. So Sandy, the Irish medium, Sandy Byrne, will be with us on next week's show. So thank you, everyone, for watching. We're so excited to be connecting with you and being a part of your life, and you being a part of our Life Between Lives Hypnosis Soul Guide show. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jonathan.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Vondie.
Okay. See you next week.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow. And join us next week for another episode of Soul Guide.